guys, welcome back to my channel. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me. I appreciate that. At the very beginning of this week's episode, DeMario comes back, he talks to Rachel, and Rachel completely shuts him down and just does it in one of the most beautiful ways I've ever seen someone get shut down on a reality TV show.
So I'm glad that you've realized that you should move forward, but I need you to know that forward isn't that way to the mansion. Forward is outside of it.
Now we get into the complaining segment of the episode. Tons of complaining going on amongst these guys. We have Blake complaining about Waboom. Then here comes Waboom complaining to Rachel about Blake. He's telling her this ridiculous story about late at night, Blake's standing over him, watching him sleep while eating a banana. Just craziness. Of course, Rachel goes back to Blake and asks him about that incident, and Blake lets Rachel know that is impossible, that could never have happened because he is on a ketogenic diet and he doesn't eat bananas. Rose ceremony time, so now is the time for some guys to get sent home. Rachel comes in, she gives out all the roses that she wants to give out, and lo and behold, who gets dismissed? Jamie, and I'll put up a picture because I didn't even know there was a Jamie in the group. Blake and Waboom. So finally, Waboom is gone. So that part of the episode put a smile on my face. But the funniest part of it all, right after the rose ceremony, as they walk out of the house, and I have to show you guys a couple of clips of Blake making fun of Waboom because I LOL'd hard. I could not stop laughing when Blake was just going on and mimicking Waboom and his actions. It was so hilarious.
But because you were too busy and making a joke out of this experience.
Okay, group date time. So 6 guys, and I'm gonna make sure I get the names right. Brian, Jonathan, Peter, Alex, Will, and Fred. They all go off to the Ellen show. So during the Never Have I Ever portion of the show, Fred has his say, has a little bit of a confessional moment where he brings up the fact that he's so tired of Rachel focusing so much on their past and him being this bad little boy that she used to know when they were growing up. Anytime that someone decides to focus so much on a moment of the past, that just goes to show that they're not really open at that moment anyway to form a new opinion of you, really get to know you in a new way, which is kind of weird because the fact that Rachel's doing The Bachelorette in the first place, anyone that decides to do this kind of show, I think is a pretty open person to a degree, but she is so fixated on who he used to be as a little kid. She's just not feeling the idea of them being a couple at all. And that's why she keeps talking about him being this troublemaker when they were little. So then after the Ellen show is over, they kind of congregate in a little space somewhere where again, they get to have their little chit chat time. So first Rachel goes and sits down with Alex. They have a little talk and they kiss. Zero fire, zero chemistry. I didn't feel any sparks whatsoever. Rachel then sits down with Will to have a little chat. They also kiss. Again, no fire at all, no spark, no chemistry. I didn't feel anything happening at all. Brian is next. They have a little chit chat. Of course, Mr. Tongue has to get up in the esophagus again. So they have a little kiss, but I don't know what the producers or the camera people were doing because the angle that the camera was set up at, you couldn't really see anything happening, but he is Mr. Tongue, so I'm sure that that was involved in that kiss. Then of course, Peter, they have a little snuggle moment. Next is Fred. Fred and Rachel both sit down to have a little one-on-one chit-chat time. Fred then proceeds to ask Rachel if he can kiss her. She looks at him like, She doesn't even understand what this man is even talking about. So he continues talking, and then in mid-sentence, he goes in for the kiss. But once again, zero fire. There was no fire happening in this episode at all. So Rachel then proceeds to tell Fred that this is the end of the road for him. There just really is no chemistry, no connection between the two of them that is going to be able to take him any further in this, and she sends him home. What was hilarious about it all was that Rachel is a G and the producers are Gs, because they made sure that when Rachel and Fred had that little sit down moment, Rachel had the rose in her hand. So all the other guys are sitting off to the side thinking, oh man, she picked up the rose and walked out with Fred. He's getting the group date rose. Fred didn't get anything but a plane ticket home. Rachel comes back in to where the rest of the guys are with rose in hand after she dismissed Fred, and gives it to Alex. Now we go back to the house. The rest of the guys are sitting around. More complaining happens. Eric starts whining about Rachel. Cut to the one-on-one date. Anthony ends up getting the one-on-one date. Have no idea how that happened. They get on some horses, ride down Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills. Then they proceed to the dinner portion. Once again, beautiful scenery on top of a hill. Their dinner is all laid out there for them. They're eating, they're talking, and again, no fire, no spark. Next, group date. So now we have Brady, Dean, Adam, Kenny, Bryce, Lee, Jack, and Eric all going on this group date. Of course, we have to cut back to Eric continuing to complain about what's going on or not going on with Rachel. Here comes Iggy. I guess he hasn't had much camera time, so he figures, let me insert myself into this conversation, because Eric was talking to a couple of the other guys. He wasn't talking to Iggy. Now it's time for the group date to start, and Rachel comes in with her friends from the last Bachelor season. They come in, and the looks on some of these guys' faces when those women walked in, I mean, I know they're all heterosexual men, but some of them looked a little too excited. So everybody goes and gets on this big bus. It has a stripper pole in the middle. Some of the guys swing around on it to impress Rachel, I guess. So the event for this group date is mud wrestling. So of course, the guys do this one-on-one thing. They go a few different rounds of mud wrestling each other. So after the wrestling is over, Eric and Rachel have a chance to sit down and talk. And of course, Rachel lets Eric know what her friends said about him, and the information that her friends got from the other guys about Eric not being a very good match for her. So she lets him know that. Of course, that sets Eric off. Not on Rachel. He made sure to stay composed during his time talking to Rachel. He goes back to the guys and goes off on the guys. Eric actually ends up looking like a fool, because all of the ranting and raving he's doing about Rachel and to the guys ends up kind of making him look silly, because he's the one that gets this group date's rose. Now it's the cocktail hour. Once again comes around, and now we have Iggy speaking to Rachel about Eric. That's not the end of it though. Iggy is not gonna allow his camera time to be cut short. He then proceeds to go back to Eric and tells Eric that he went to Rachel to talk to her about him. Then here comes Lee. Lee talks to Rachel about Eric. Then now comes Rachel going back to Eric. Whatever Rachel did say to Eric definitely did involve what she heard from some of the other guys in the house. So that's my recap for this episode, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I will be tuning in again next week with fingers crossed that it is a much better episode than this one. I want to see some passion. I want to see some romantic, passionate kisses. I want to see some real electricity and chemistry and bonding going on between Rachel and these guys. I really hope that that does get showcased. because I really feel like there's only a handful of the guys so far that I really see Rachel having any real connection with. My final 5 predictions are Peter, because I just really enjoyed that very first one-on-one date that they had together. They talked about having both been to therapy, their common gap tooth thing going on. I just really am enjoying seeing that connection grow. Brian, really because of the sexual chemistry. Every season, usually the 1 or 2 people that the person has a very strong sexual attraction to usually makes it pretty far. The same goes for Dean. He's young. When I look at him, I see a 13-year-old little kid, but there is that sexual attraction there. Josiah, really because I like the commonality of them both working in the same field. Chemistry-wise, I'm not seeing much chemistry yet, but I really do think that they have a lot in common that can grow later. And finally, Kenny, just because I think Kenny is just a really nice guy. I don't know how much they really have in common. I have no idea how Rachel personally feels about being with a guy that has a child already, but I needed to put in another black guy. I really do see Rachel walking away with either a white guy or someone in the other category. I really don't see her getting that involved with the black guys. I even put myself in that situation, and if I was the Bachelorette, I don't know how much I'd be feeling the black guys on the show either. The only one that really sticks out to me at all is Diggy, and that's really just because of his style. I really love his style and his swag a little bit. Please do give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more. I'm gonna come back every week with these recaps. Let's talk about it. Share all your thoughts and feelings. Who do you think is going to make the final 5? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.